We are live, Believe Nation. How we doing? Happy Wednesday. Wednesday is my project day. I like having one day per week to just work on whatever I want to work on. I think entrepreneurs are generally overscheduled. We don't have enough creativity in our calendar open to work on your next creative projects. And if you find that you're constantly getting to the end of the week and you're not getting the stuff done that you said you were going to get done, like you were really busy but you didn't make any progress, you're overcommitted, overscheduled, and not allowing enough time for creativity. And I think you need to force it. I think you need to put it in your calendar. Otherwise, your next big breakthrough won't happen. And so that's what I do on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is whatever I want to work on. I have my list of ideas, but I don't have any firm responsibilities. It's like, here's what I want to work on today. I decide, and then I just make some massive progress on making that happen. So I'm taking a little break from doing that. I got some exciting things, guys. I got some exciting projects. I'm not allowed to talk about them yet, but I got some exciting projects coming soon that you guys are gonna love. I've been showing it to a couple people. It's like, this is breaking ankles, breaking mental ankles. Anyway, I'm gonna introduce you to a new friend of the channel. We're gonna wait for him to join in. This guy is special. You are gonna really enjoy his story. As I was diving in, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have him on. So I'm just waiting for him to pop in. But until we see him, happy Wednesday. If you got any quick questions, pop it down below and I'll do my best to go through and answer them. Oh, I see him here. All right. Love this man. Here he comes. Here he comes. And there he is.
What's going on? How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
Good. Just taking a seat and excited to talk to you for a bit. It's good to meet you. I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to a creative force, an entrepreneur, and an author of a new book called Divine Disruption for YouTube. We're going to link that in the description below to go check it out. A new friend of the channel, Mr. Anthony Evans. Welcome aboard, man.
Thank you very much, man. It's good to be with you. I appreciate your time.
So there's so many ways, I was diving in your story, there's so many ways to take this conversation, but I thought starting with entrepreneurship is a good place because most of my audience are entrepreneurs.
Got it. Yeah.
And in looking at your story and the music production company that you started, and just when you started your journey feeling like you didn't belong, you didn't quite fit in, and you're trying to find your place, and then you decide, I'm just going to bet on myself. I'm going to launch my own production company. I'm going to be my own manager. I'm going to be my own booking agent. I'm going to do it all myself because I don't quite fit into the mold that everybody wants to put me in. A lot of people, when they're at that phase, they quit, they give up. They say, like, why can't it just work out? And instead of taking on those roles, they just stop. So what was the thing that made you say, I'm going to figure out a way to do everything to start making progress on my dream?
Well, it wasn't necessarily easy because I appreciate the hype. I mean, that's amazing, but it wasn't necessarily easy at the beginning to be told no and you don't fit and all those things. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm a musician. I'm in gospel music, but earlier on, there's like a real divided line in contemporary and gospel music, especially earlier on. So not fitting was not a good feeling to have the industry go, this just doesn't work. But I knew that there was for lack of a better, I'll say this because I'm on here with entrepreneurs. There was a market for what I do, but commercially it didn't work. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So I knew that there was I knew there was a market for what I did. People were asking me to come sing, even though the radio wasn't playing my music. So I just decided I can't allow an industry and radio guys who aren't playing my music to determine whether I'm going to actually go do what I know that I've been gifted at and I know that I'm called to and all that stuff. So I also have parents that are very much been told no most of their adult lives because of what they're doing, and they figured out ways around it. So I watched that and didn't realize I was taking on so much of them. I mean, I'm their DNA, obviously, but taking on so much of the mindset that they had, which is create your own path. Nobody can tell you that you can't do something, especially when you know that you're good at it and you know you're called to it. An industry doesn't get to decide whether you get to do it. Sometimes it gets to decide the capacity in which you do it at and the brevity in which you start to do it, but overall it can't decide. So I just started making the calls and going the places and learning how to do whatever it was, like the booking or the lighting and the things that you mentioned, the buses. I had to figure that all out on my own, and I had no idea that a production company was being birthed back then. I was just rejected, and it's so hard. But I didn't know that if I wouldn't have been rejected back then, I wouldn't have the company that I have now.
And so where do you get the strength from to go and disrupt the industry, to say, hey, this industry wasn't made for me yet and what I want to do, so I'm going to make my own path? Because people love that idea, especially entrepreneurs. We love that concept. I don't want to listen to the man, or I don't want to have a boss. I want to do it my own way. But then you start, like, it's hard to clear a path. You got to chop down trees and push things out. Like, it's really difficult, and you don't see results at the beginning. So where do you get the strength from, or where did you get the strength from to say, I don't care, I'm going to go off and do it?
Well, a couple things. One, my faith is always going to play a role in me finding strength to keep moving and keep pressing on. So I'm a man of faith. I believe I don't push my faith on people, but it has been such a vital part of who I am as a human being that I just tell my story, and that's always going to be a part of it. So knowing that there is a purpose and a plan that's bigger than me, that God has set before me, is huge. But also, in addition to that, because of that, redefining what success was to me made me push forward, because I became a pursuer of internal peace. And part of my internal peace was, am I doing what I know I'm called to do? Am I doing it excellently? Even if nobody's watching, like, how excellent can I get this? How I became a pursuer of that. And then that leads you to, quote unquote, what we consider to be success sometimes, which is people's eyes on you, which is not necessarily the wrong infrastructure. And a bunch of people's eyes on you can feel like failure. I had to get my mindset, Anthony, are you doing what you love? Are you doing it excellently? And is peace accompanying that? And once I started to move that direction, the quote unquote success followed that, because my definition of success changed. I love it. Yeah.
Walk me through how people can find peace. Is it prayer? Is it conversations? Is it time alone? Is it lots of time in the shower thinking? Like, how do you get to that point of peace? Because I think if you said, how many people in America right now have peace, it's not going to be that many. So how do we get to peace?
I think it varies, because everybody's so different. But I can speak, obviously, what it meant to me. It means, man, there's so many different variables. For me, a huge part of my thing was getting my mind and emotions set, because I'm an emotional dude. We're artists, so an emotion can throw you off track for 3 weeks if you don't let it. So I obviously made sure that my relationship with God is good, and I'm connected and very intentional about that. And in addition to that, a big part of that for me was therapy. Like, I got into therapy, and it's like, I'm like, big strong dude, I don't need therapy. That's kind of my mind at first, but then I was like, yeah, you do. You know what I mean? So for me, that was like having a trainer at the gym when weights are getting stacked on the rack, like having somebody tell you, this is the way. Now, I can't take the weight away, but I can tell you the proper form when lifting it. I can tell you how many reps you need. I can help you get it all mapped out in front of you, so that you will get the most results out of this heavy lifting. So that's what it was for me, my relationship with God. And for those people who are watching, just knowing that there is something greater than you at play. There's something greater than what's happening in your life at this moment at play, and understanding, which I do, is that the bigger picture and God's promise to me and all of us is that he's going to use all those things together for our good. So I'm a faith guy. Sorry. Not sorry. No, I just almost going to bring that in for everybody watching.
Don't apologize. It's great. I mean, you've talked a lot about belief, which I love.
Yes.
I think the biggest problem in the world is that people don't have enough belief. So when you are talking about, you're meant for something more, you're meant to serve and to help and to share your gifts, how do you maintain the belief when the voice in your head is telling you, but you're not getting results, Anthony, but nobody wants you on their station, Anthony? Like, how do you keep that belief strong when that internal voice is so negative sometimes?
The way I've kept it strong is by bouncing everything that comes into my head and my heart off of the truth. And the truth to me is understanding that everything that happens in my life will work together for good. So when I have the feelings or knowing that, like, God's going to finish what he started in me, like, that's a huge thing, because there are moments where I'm the biggest, like, you know, I feel left, I feel lost, I feel abandoned. It's hard. Today's hard. I'm that guy all day long. It's kind of weird, but I'm just that emotional. It's understanding. Basically, the bottom line is that emotions do not have intellect. That's what it is. It's understanding the concept that emotions cannot think. So as real as they feel, they have to be bounced off the truth, or they will have you all over the place. Emotions cannot be the engine. They have to be the caboose. Period.
I love it. So the book is called Divine Disruption. Yeah. YouTube, we're going to link it in the description below. It's interesting, the choice of words, because it in disruption forces you to go on a different path.
Yes.
And the life that maybe you thought you were going to live is not the one that is actually the one you have to go off and live. And I think people struggle with it. You mentioned therapy, and I see that, you know, you lost 8 family members in 2 years. Mm-hmm. Just crazy in researching your story. It's like, how is this for me? Like, that is an easy voice to go to, right? Like, how does this serve me? How is this God's plan? How? Like, how does that make any sense? But it's a disruptive plan. So talk me through why disruption is so important.
Man, I will talk you through that. But when you mentioned that the 8 family members and all that stuff, that's still hard. I'm like, God, for real? Like, did we need to go this far? You know what I mean? I obviously didn't want any of that to happen, but life throws us curveballs. That is what happens. And it's kind of, what are we going to do with those curveballs? So I mentioned, you know, you can't build a foundation during a storm. It has to be before or after. And I really believe that. So I really believe that disruptions are going to happen. That's the bottom line. And are you retrofitted for those disruptions? I half the time I live in Los Angeles, and the home I'm in, the foundation has been retrofitted for earthquakes. It has been, the earthquakes were thought about before the house was built. So now if there's an earthquake, yes, I may have to go put pictures back up on the wall and figure that out. But because it was built with the earthquakes in mind, it can withstand them in a way that something that wasn't built with them in mind can't. So my encouragement to everybody watching is to know that disruptions are going to come. It is going to be a problem. And unfortunately, that is what it is. But we have the option to retrofit our hearts. We have the option to retrofit our minds. We have the option to retrofit our emotions, so that when they come, it doesn't negate the shaking, but it changes what the shaking does to our lives. That's what this book is about. And it's a family conversation. It's me, my siblings, my 3 siblings. Sorry, you can't say me, my 3 siblings, and my father. And it's like welcoming you to our table and talking about how, even though we all have crazy different personalities, how we handled the disruptions and how we retrofitted our hearts and our lives to, so that the shaking didn't destroy us. And also, sorry, I'm just rambling on. I had
this
coffee.
Is great. No,
so
it's great.
When I have coffee, Evan, it's like, hold on, here we go. You know what
Let's
I mean?
go.
It's
Give
like,
it, Anthony. We're ready.
Yeah.
Preach.
No. You know, I for a while I was still now, I watched Fixer Upper quite a bit. You know, I watched Chip and Joe. A lot of people watch Chip and Joe, and I noticed before those beautiful renovations happened, there always had to be a demolition. There is always a demolition before there's a renovation. So now when disruptions happen, even though it doesn't negate how much they hurt, it doesn't negate any of that. I look at them as a renovation is coming. And I don't know what that's going to be, but a renovation is coming. And that stacked on top of my faith, and knowing that at the end of the day, I'm going to see my mother again. I'm going to see my other 7 family members again. That, when coupled with the understanding that a demolition comes before a renovation, helps me to push through the disruptions in a different way.
And what I love about the message in the book is that it's not only that disruptions will come, but that they're divine.
Yeah.
Like they're guiding you somewhere. It's not that you just have to handle it. It's like it's actually taking you to somewhere that you need to be, which is a total mind twist on a lot of these negative. We see them as negative things, which they are, but it's like it's actually making you stronger and it's guiding you to a different spot.
100%. I believe that certain things happen on a level that we can't understand. Certain things, most things, almost all things, I think, happen on a level that we cannot cognitively understand. But when you stop looking at the circumstance and look at what you can do with who you are in that circumstance, then everything changes because you understand it's divine. You know, like I'll use Simone Biles for an example. She is 4'10", a tiny human being. I'm sure it's hard for her to reach stuff in her house, and that's the way she was made. That's the way she was divinely made. For some odd reason, she's 4'10". She can't reach stuff in her house. I'm sure pushing the pedals in her car is hard at times. You know, everything is different because of the way she's built. But if you ask her, do you wish you were taller? I bet you she'd hold out 50, 60, hundreds of medals and trophies and go, what do you think? Because she has figured out a way to maximize the way that she was made. That she was divinely made one way, and instead of trying to join the basketball team and putting herself in a position to be constantly feeling like a failure, she has taken the way she is made and figured out a way to be a champion with that. And I believe we all have the option of looking at what's divinely happening in our lives and deciding, how are we going to become a champion with these divine circumstances that I've been put in, sometimes without me wanting to. She didn't ask to be 4'10". She just figured out a way to become a champion at 4'10".
Man, I think if you ask most people, they're going to be saying, I wish I was like this person, that person, taller like him, and had more followers like her, and could sing like Anthony, and all of these things, right? How do we get rid of that voice?
Getting that voice starts with the making sure that you can hear the voice of your uniqueness when you silence the voice of comparison. When you silence the I wish I was more like, and that allows the voice to become louder of, but this is how you are made. This is what divinely is going on in your life at this moment. And what can you do to maximize that? This book, although I actually would prefer to not have a book and have my mother back, obviously, because this book wouldn't have happened. But because those circumstances are things I cannot control, they're totally out of my control. I want my mother here so bad. When she passed, I remember thinking, we have to honor her legacy in a way that somehow brings some kind of justice and legacy out of this moment. And that is why we are sitting down. That's why we sat down and wrote this book. And I look at the book, and although I want my mom back, I'm like, this is what you do when you take a circumstance that you can't change and you make the most of it. Because now my mother's story and our story will be able to touch countless amounts of people, because we looked at the scenario and said, what can we do with this? What can we do with this?
I love it. You're talking to probably one of my greatest fears. My parents are both alive right now. They're on the wall behind me. Like, that's my mom. That's my dad.
Pictures.
That's me when I'm like 8 years old. And so I don't know how I'm going to handle it when at some point it happens. But, you know, the way you guys have done it's just been a huge inspiration. Do you have triggers? Like, how do you catch it when the voice, you mentioned you're an emotional guy, it's easy to get lost in those emotions, and they can derail you for weeks if you let them. And I think a lot of people let themselves get trapped. How do you catch it and pull yourself out of the spiral? Are there triggers? Are there words? Is there a feeling? Like, how do you pull yourself out when it happens?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them. I have to understand, man. First of all, I had to identify the triggers in my life. Sometimes walking through my own life was like walking through a minefield. I didn't know what were the things that set me off. And I think a lot of times I have friends that are like that, but I'll talk about me. There are buried mines in your soul and in your emotions. And the way that I have been able to come to peace with those or dig those up and unset them. That's not the right word I was looking for. Basically dig them up and not make them triggers anymore. Was I had to be willing to do the work. Digging up a trigger, digging up a mine, it takes work. Sorry, my brain just, it's coffee.
No, you're doing it. You're crushing it. It's
coffee
great.
Makes me like,
It's great.
What's the word? Diffuse. Sorry. When you diffuse a bomb or diffuse a trigger, I have to dig something up. That takes work. And that's how I got to the point. And it's still hard for me because there are certain things that still, feeling devalued is a trigger of mine because of what happened earlier in my career and things that happened in childhood. Everybody was doing their best, but feeling devalued is a problem for me. So I diffuse it, and sometimes it'll reconnect itself, and you have to constantly diffuse those things. But once you realize that those explosions hurt you and everybody around you, then you are more likely to when you want to be healthy, and you don't want to be the guy who pops off every 2 seconds, and you realize that's a distraction to you, everybody in your life, that will encourage you to do the work. And for me, doing the work is obviously my relationship with the Lord, but also therapy. Like, I had to dig down and figure out, how do I diffuse this? Somebody help me. Teach me how to diffuse this, because it's distracting.
I love it. Well, we value you, Anthony.
Yeah, no,
that
wasn't,
you know,
like,
behind the scenes. So your PR people, whatever, reached out to me and they said, "Hey, who do you want to have on to talk about the book?" It's like, I want Anthony.
Hey, thanks.
So it was great. It's great to have you. I love that you talk about therapy as well, and mental health, and there's still a big stigma around it, and just a willingness to ask for help and to seek a professional to help guide you through some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
For somebody who might be on the fence, or might be struggling, or might be going through their own emotional demons right now, what would you tell them about therapy and how it's helped you?
I think that you taking the step in that direction, and sometimes I've had a few therapists where the first one I was like, this isn't working, this isn't right. But I think that your biggest accomplishments, your biggest delivery from whatever it is that's going on inside of you, your biggest joy is always tied to you being willing to go to the other side of your fear. When you go to the other side of your fear, you get to experience things that you never would have thought. And for a lot of people, therapy is like, why would I go digging down there? I don't want to stir that stuff up. But it's there. Like, it's there, so you might as well get rid of it as opposed to burying it. So I would encourage you to just take step one. Don't think about all the tears you may shed. Just think about step one, which is trying to find it. And there's so many opportunities now. Like, mental health is such a thing. There's so many opportunities now for you to just take a step and reach out. I mean, you could do it on Talkspace for a second just to feel out, how's this going to work for me? But I would say, if you're fearful of it, your biggest joy is on the other side of that fear.
What was there something that pushed you over the edge in terms of, like, there's fear, there's hesitancy to go and have that first session? And if you think back to who Anthony was before, maybe somebody suggested go talk to a therapist, you're like, I'm not going to talk to a therapist. Like, what was the push over to say, you know what? Okay, now I'm going to do it.
The push was when I was literally in the shower, which is too much information, but I was in the shower and tears were coming out of my eyes. I didn't even know why, and I couldn't stop them. And I thought, something is trying to get out. Like, something inside of you wants out, and you need to figure out what that is and dig. And I had general ideas, but that was when I was like, I got to figure this out. Because it was starting to bleed everywhere. Like, everybody knew me as the guy, everybody close to me knew me as, like, what mood is he in today? Is he going to pop off? Like, it's that kind of thing. And being known as that person, and also being heavily emotional all the time. And my work was suffering. I would go sing places and it was like a shell of a person was singing to people. I remember one time I went to an audience and I started telling them everything that was going on in my life, because I was like, and they were looking at me like, no, just sing, this is too much, like, we don't want to know all that. And I thought, you got to figure this out, man, because you're an emotional wreck. So that's, for me, that's what started it, is when I realized I wasn't operating at all cylinders.
What do you think is the most important daily habit you have to keep you on track, to keep you in peace, like you call it?
The most important daily habit that I have is spending, and it's hard for me because I'm move a lot, is starting my day and trying to start it in solitude and in silence, and not snatching my phone, spending time acknowledging the Lord, acknowledging God in my life, having a moment of prayer. And then I just, right in a close second to that, is being active. Like, I did not know how much that mattered until later in my life. When I'm active, or thoughts are like having those, having time for my brain to just space out and to be active, that helps me get centered. Just making time for me before I grab the phone or grab, the computer or whatever. That's huge.
Cool. I wonder if you could lead us. This idea is coming to me. This is divine.
Yes.
Disruption
Give it to
coming
me.
through.
Give it to me, Evan.
I wonder if you could lead us in a blessing, in a song, in a prayer, like whatever's flowing, for other people who've been watching this live or on the YouTube replay, who feel stuck, who feel like they're capable of more, who are tired of being tired and frustrated and just want to release and and find their true selves and go on? Like, is there something you can lead us in? Just speak to those people.
How about I'll do a little bit of both. I'll give you
Okay.
a little bit of a song that I love singing all the time to remind myself that no matter what's going on externally, I'm at peace on the inside. And then I'll lead us in a prayer too. I love that.
Let's go, man. Let's go. Yeah.
Little bit of both. When peace like a river tendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. Lord, for everybody on here that's watching, for everybody who will watch, I pray that you will bring a peace that surpasses all of our understanding into our lives, in all the chaos and the disruptions that we have personally, the disruptions we've had globally, civil, I mean, all the disruptions that are happening right now. I pray that you would bring a peace and start to show us a little glimpse of the hope that lies in trusting in you, working all things together for our good. For those on here who know you, for those on here who are new to this, I pray, God, that now that supernaturally that you will give them a peace and an understanding of you working all things together for good. Open our eyes to what is truly in store for all of us if we just hang on tight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Anthony Evans in the house, ladies and gentlemen. The book is called Divine Disruption. Go pick it up. YouTube again. It's in the description below. Dude, I appreciate you so much. That was beautiful. You set me on for my day. And it's just a tremendous joy to be in your presence.
Yo, I loved it, Evan. Thank you for having me, man. And I've loved following you, and you inspire me constantly. So I'm glad I could give a little bit back.
I love it. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you, and best of luck with the book.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.